There are many fascinating stories to share about the residents of Hartford's historic Cedar Hill Cemetery. One such story is that of Richard Beckwith, a Titanic survivor who is laid to rest in his family lot. A New York financier and real estate executive, Beckwith was one of 705 Titanic survivors, along with his wife Sally and stepdaughter Helen Newsom. In April of 1912, the Beckwiths were returning from their European travels. Richard and Sally had planned their trip to separate Helen from her suitor Carl Baer, a lawyer and amateur tennis star. Not to be thwarted, Carl concocted a business trip to Europe and also booked a return passage on the Titanic. On the evening of April 14th, the RMS Titanic collided with an iceberg, eventually sinking in the early hours of the 15th. On that fateful evening, Richard was in the smoking room. At 11:40 p.m., he started for his stateroom. He was in the lavatory when he felt a scraping jar which lasted about 4 seconds. It didn't feel like a crash. He assumed the ship had scraped an iceberg. He went outside to look. Since there was no confusion and nothing seemed to be out of the ordinary, he continued to his stateroom. When he arrived, his wife and stepdaughter expressed their concern. To ease their minds, Richard went upstairs again to further investigate. Although he still thought that it was only a minor incident, a rumor began to spread that water was filling the bow. Even taking on water, it was thought the boat was unsinkable. When he returned to the stateroom, they received orders to put on life preservers as a precaution. Quoted in the Hartford Courant on April 19, 1912, Beckwith noted, "I was so sure that there was no danger that I asked the steward to lock up the staterooms so that there would be no thefts while we were up above." Carl, who had retired to his own stateroom, joined the Beckwiths on the boat deck. The first lifeboat was swung into position. Sally wanted to get into it, but Richard told her there was no need, so they waited. They got into the second boat. Richard noted there was absolutely no confusion, and people who held back did so because they believed there was more danger going into the open boat than sticking to the ship, which they were confident was unsinkable. The lifeboat was about a quarter mile off the ship for about an hour when the ship suddenly listed, turned up on end, and went down. Richard told the Courant, "There is one thing that I shall not forget until I die, and that is the cry of the 1,300 who went to their death with the Titanic as she sank last Monday morning. It was a dreadful cry, and the memory of it will haunt like a nightmare for perhaps years to come." More than 1,500 of the over 2,200 passengers and crew on board perished, making it one of the deadliest maritime disasters on record. Richard Beckwith, who died in 1933 at age 59, was laid to rest in his family's lot in Section 3.